What if discipline made you look insane? Imagine waking up before dawn every single day, training until your body screamed, and repeating it without fail. Not for weeks, not for months, but for decades. Most people would look at that kind of life and whisper, "That's crazy." But that's exactly what Miyamoto Musashi lived. He wasn't just another warrior in feudal Japan. He was the undefeated samurai, a man who fought more than 60 duels and never lost. People called him ruthless, unorthodox, even reckless. Yet beneath that reputation was something deeper, a discipline so relentless that it bordered on madness. Musashi believed that the difference between the ordinary and the unstoppable wasn't talent, luck, or even courage. It was discipline. Not the shallow discipline of setting an alarm clock or writing goals in a notebook, but the brutal kind that strips away every excuse until only strength remains. He wrote about it in his legendary work, The Book of Five Rings. At first glance, it's a guide for sword fighting, but look closer and you'll see something more. Each of his 5 rings, earth, water, fire, wind, and void, is a lesson in mastering yourself, your mind, and your life. This isn't philosophy that sits in a dusty book. These lessons are raw, practical, and almost savage in their clarity. They weren't designed for comfort. They were designed for survival, for victory, and for transformation. And when you apply them today, they'll make you look different. So different that people around you might think you've lost your mind. But you haven't. You've simply stepped into a way of living that most people are too weak to handle. In this video, we're going to break down Musashi's 5 brutal lessons and show you how they can turn you into something unrecognizable. A force of nature in a world full of sleepwalkers. This isn't about balance or moderation. It's about the kind of discipline that makes people uncomfortable. The kind that earns whispers behind your back. Because once you walk the path of Musashi, there's no going back. You either embrace the fire or you stay ordinary forever. So let's begin with the first ring, the Earth Ring, where everything starts facing the brutal truth. The first ring Musashi describes is Earth, the foundation. It isn't glamorous, it isn't exciting, and it sure as hell isn't comfortable. The Earth Ring is about one thing: ripping the blindfold off, facing the brutal truth about who you really are. Most people never do this. They'd rather live inside soft lies, convincing themselves they're working hard or staying busy while quietly wasting their lives. Musashi didn't tolerate illusions. After his near-death duel with Sasaki Kojiro, he retreated into a cave for 2 years, not to celebrate victory, but to tear his weaknesses apart under a microscope. Imagine winning the biggest fight of your life, and instead of parading around like a hero, you lock yourself in isolation to dissect what almost went wrong. That's not normal thinking. That's Earth Ring discipline. The courage to face yourself without excuses. Think about Alex, a 27-year-old software developer. He swears he's grinding towards success. He stays up late with his laptop, bouncing between Slack messages, Spotify, and endless tabs. By midnight, he collapses into bed, convinced he worked hard all day. But when Alex finally tracked every minute of his time for 1 week, the truth hit like a sword strike. 5 hours a day on YouTube and Netflix, 2 more lost inside meaningless group chats. Out of 16 waking hours, barely 3 were actual deep work. He wasn't grinding, he was hiding. The numbers stripped his excuses bare. Or take Nadia, a fitness influencer with 500,000 followers. To her fans, she's disciplined, glowing, and full of motivation. But when she started logging her calories and workout intensity with military precision, she realized she was skipping half her lifts, snacking late at night, and lying to herself about her clean eating. She wasn't a fraud to her audience. She was a fraud to herself. The Earth Ring principle hit her. You can't build anything unbreakable on rotten timber. Musashi wrote, In the construction of houses, choice of woods is made. Straight, unknotted timber of good appearance is used for the revealed pillars, while knotted timber is used for the inner structure. Translation: if you don't know the cracks in your foundation, your entire life will collapse under pressure. That's why the earth ring feels savage. It demands you look at every flaw, every weakness, every wasted hour. No filters, no delusions. And then there's Jamal, a 40-year-old manager who insists he's too busy to exercise or learn new skills. But when his daughter asked why he missed another soccer game, he couldn't dodge the truth. He wasn't busy. He was buried in pointless meetings, endless email loops, and Netflix binges disguised as unwinding. The earth ring doesn't ask for excuses. It demands clarity. Jamal finally wrote down every task he did in a week. Half of it could have been automated, delegated, or deleted. He wasn't busy. He was lazy in disguise. That's the heart of the earth ring. Brutal honesty. It doesn't care how much effort you feel like you're putting in. Feelings don't matter. Facts do. Musashi's discipline wasn't about optimism or self-esteem. It was about reality. That's why he drilled sword swings thousands of times in silence, correcting every micro flaw, stripping away the illusion of progress. He didn't want to believe he was ready. He wanted the truth to prove it. In modern life, that means tracking your time, your habits, your thoughts with ruthless accuracy. How many hours did you scroll TikTok this week? How many workouts did you skip? How many promises did you break to yourself? Write it all down. The numbers don't lie, even if you do. And yes, it hurts. When Alex saw his wasted hours, his stomach dropped. When Nadia saw her skipped lifts, she wanted to cry. When Jamal faced his fake busy, he felt ashamed. But shame is fuel, if you have the guts to use it. Most people avoid this step forever. They want motivation without measurement. They want growth without accountability. But Musashi's earth ring shows the opposite. The path begins with demolition. Tear down the lies first, then build on what's real. As Jordan Peterson once said, you can't change what you don't see. The earth ring is savage because it kills your ego before you can build your strength. And that's exactly why it works. Without facing the brutal truth, every other ring collapses into delusion. But once you see clearly, once you've ripped off the blindfold, you finally have something solid to stand on. And that's when the next challenge appears. Because clarity alone isn't enough. Knowing your weaknesses doesn't automatically fix them. The question is, how do you move forward without burning out? Without crashing under the weight of your own truth? That's where Musashi's next lesson begins. The water ring. Once you've faced the brutal truth, the temptation is to overcorrect. You see the cracks in your foundation, and panic drives you to rebuild overnight. You set 5 a.m. alarms. You write aggressive workout schedules. You swear you'll never touch your phone again. For 2 days, maybe 3, you feel unstoppable. And then, like most people, you crash. The earth ring gave you clarity, but clarity without wisdom is a trap. That's where Musashi's water ring flows in. Musashi wrote, water adopts the shape of its receptacle. At first glance, it sounds soft, almost weak, but it's the opposite. Water is patient. Water doesn't smash against a boulder. It shapes it, slowly, endlessly, until the rock is gone. Musashi's discipline wasn't about brute force. It was about moving with reality, carving progress day by day until resistance itself eroded. Think about Elena, a 29-year-old nurse. After realizing she was wasting hours scrolling, she tried to reinvent her entire life in one weekend. She downloaded 4 new productivity apps, bought a bullet journal, ordered protein powders, and set alarms for everything. 5 a.m. runs, 2-hour study blocks, meditation, no sugar. For 2 days, she felt like a machine. By day 3, she slept through her alarm, binged chips after a long shift, and threw her new notebook in the trash. She wasn't broken. She was trying to force water through a wall instead of letting it flow around. Or Ryan, a high school student who decided he would read a book a week to get smarter. On week 1, he picked War and Peace. By page 30, he hated himself. He quit, told himself he wasn't a reader, and went back to YouTube. But when he tried again with a single page a night, something changed. A page became 2, then 5, then whole chapters. By month 3, he had finished 3 books. He wasn't forcing, he was flowing. Even Musashi himself didn't start by dueling with steel swords in blood-soaked battles. He practiced with wooden swords for years, drilling movements until they became as natural as breathing. He mastered the basics slowly, letting discipline shape him like water shapes stone. The water ring is about persistence over perfection. It's about carving change in small, relentless increments. If the earth ring kills your ego, the water ring rebuilds you 1 drop at a time. Take Isabella, a 35-year-old entrepreneur. She wanted to start running, but hated the gym. So she tricked herself. She just put her shoes on every morning. That was the rule. No run required, just the shoes. The first week, she only walked around the block. By week 4, she was jogging. By month 3, she was running 5 kilometers before breakfast. Her friend said, "You're so disciplined." She laughed. "I only promised myself shoes." That's water ring strategy, turning impossible goals into tiny victories until they multiply into something unstoppable. Your brain expects you to fail. That's why massive overhauls collapse. But when you start small, 1 page, 1 push-up, 1 tiny habit, your brain doesn't fight. It feels like nothing. And then suddenly, everything has changed. Musashi understood this in battle. He didn't clash head-on with every strike. He flowed, adapted, adjusted. He bent reality to his rhythm until opponents drowned in his patience. That's the genius of water. It's flexible, but unyielding. Elena eventually rebuilt her routine, not with apps and bullet journals, but with 10 minutes of yoga before work, then 15 minutes of study after her shift. The small steps turned into giant leaps. Ryan now reads a book a month without stress. Isabella runs half marathons. They didn't smash through walls, they flowed around them. The water ring teaches you to stop trying to be a hero in 1 day. Heroics burn out. Flow builds permanence. Like Bruce Lee said, "Be water, my friend." But here's the catch. Flow isn't enough, because once you start making progress, something else awakens inside you. Fire. The anger at your past self, the envy of those further ahead, the rage that burns when you feel behind. Fire is dangerous. It destroys most people. But in Musashi's hands, fire became fuel. And that's the 3rd ring. Progress feels good until it doesn't. The earth ring stripped away illusions. The water ring gave you flow. But then comes the hardest test. Fire. The fire ring is where most people collapse, because they don't know how to handle the blaze inside them. Anger, envy, frustration, emotions so volatile. They either ignite growth or burn you to ashes. Musashi knew this better than anyone. He wrote, "The spirit of fire is fierce. Whether the fire be small or big, it is not about avoiding anger, but about aiming it." To Musashi, fire wasn't something to fear or suppress. It was raw energy. When his father died, when Musashi was just a child, rage could have destroyed him. Instead, he sharpened it into a weapon. 14-hour training days, sword swings until his muscles screamed. Rage became his fuel, not his prison. Now, look at the modern battlefield. Diego, a 22-year-old boxer, lost his first amateur fight. He felt humiliated, mocked by people who said he'd never make it. His first instinct, quit. "I'm just not built for this." But when his coach forced him to journal his anger instead of drowning in it, something changed. Every insult became a line in his notebook. Every doubt became a rep in the gym. Within a year, Diego was undefeated in 6 matches. He didn't erase the fire. He aimed it. Or Amira, a college student in medical school. She worked herself into exhaustion, only to get lower grades than classmates who seemed to glide through. She felt anger rising, at herself, at her professors, at the unfairness of it all. For weeks, she spiraled, binge-watching shows to escape, calling herself a failure. Then she remembered a line from Nietzsche, "That which does not kill us makes us stronger." She started flipping her anger into micro-challenges. Bad grade, study an extra hour, criticism, rewrite her notes until they were flawless. Within a semester, she jumped to the top 10% of her class. Fire had nearly destroyed her. Instead, it lit the path forward. And then there's Omar, a 45-year-old father. After losing his job, he sank into despair, snapping at his family and drinking away his nights. His fire was turned inward, self-hatred, shame, regret. But when his son quietly asked him, "Dad, are you going to give up?" something snapped. Omar turned rage against himself into rage against mediocrity. He woke at 5 a.m., hit the gym, updated his skills online, and within 6 months, landed a higher-paying job than before. His fire didn't vanish. It was redirected. This is the essence of the fire ring. Rage is inevitable. Envy is inevitable. Frustration is inevitable. Pretending they don't exist makes you weak. Weaponizing them makes you dangerous. Musashi knew this on the battlefield. When opponents thought they'd cornered him, he channeled intensity into precise strikes, turning fear into ferocity. He didn't collapse under pressure. He grew sharper. Fire, in his hands, was not chaos. It was strategy. The modern mistake is self-destruction. People use anger to tear themselves down. "I'm not enough. I'll never make it." They burn out in a storm of self-hatred. But the fire ring demands something brutal. Aim your fury at your weaknesses, not your identity. Missed a workout? Double it tomorrow. Failed an exam? Study harder, smarter, longer. Got humiliated? Let the shame fuel the next victory. Diego's fists, Amira's notes, Omar's career, all were forged in fire. Each of them could have quit. Each of them could have turned anger inward and collapsed. Instead, they learned what Musashi knew. Rage is a sword. In the wrong hands, it guts you. In the right hands, it carves your path. So when the fire comes, and it will, don't waste it on self-pity. Don't waste it comparing yourself to others. Pour it into the cracks of your discipline. Let it burn your excuses. Let it torch your laziness. Let it refine you like steel in a forge. Because once you master the fire ring, you stop being fragile. You become untouchable. But here's the catch. Fire is intoxicating. Progress can inflate your pride, and pride whispers something deadly. You've made it. That voice is the most dangerous enemy of all, which is why Musashi gave us the fourth ring, the wind, a reminder that no matter how far you've come, the moment you think you've arrived, you've already lost. 3 months in, the transformation feels complete. You're stronger, sharper, more disciplined than you've ever been. Few people notice. They call you inspiring. They whisper about how different you've become. And deep inside, a quiet voice starts to whisper too. You've made it. You've done enough. Ease up. That voice is poison. Musashi called it the wind ring, the danger of believing you've arrived. Musashi was undefeated in over 60 duels. He killed men in single strokes, defeated entire schools of swordsmanship, and still, at 50 years old, he called himself a student. He studied the techniques of rival schools, not to flatter them, but to stay sharp. He knew the real enemy wasn't outside. It was the voice inside that said, "You're good enough now. That voice nearly destroyed Hiroshi, a tech founder who built a startup from nothing. After 3 years of sleepless nights, he landed funding, hired a team, and started seeing his face in magazines. For the first time, he let himself relax. Meetings started late. Workouts stopped. Instead of reading books on innovation, he scrolled social media, convincing himself he'd earned the break. Within a year, his startup collapsed under competitors who worked like predators while he drifted in the wind. Hiroshi didn't lose to others. He lost to his own satisfaction. Or take Layla, a violinist who practiced 6 hours a day to earn her place in a world-class orchestra. When she finally got in, she let her hunger fade. She told herself, "I've arrived. I'm one of the best." Slowly, her practice time shrank. At first, no one noticed, but after a year, her performances felt flat. Her fire dulled. When auditions came for the lead chair, she was passed over by someone younger, hungrier, and sharper. Contrast that with Darius, a marathon runner, who, after breaking his personal record, felt the same temptation. Friends told him he could relax, that he'd proven enough. But Darius remembered Musashi's words, "In the way of strategy, do not think you have arrived." Instead of coasting, he signed up for an even harder race. Instead of bragging, he went back to training at dawn. Every record he set only revealed another mountain. His hunger kept him untouchable. This is the wind ring, never arrive. The moment you think you've made it, you've already started dying. Growth is a moving target. Musashi studied relentlessly because he knew there was no ceiling. Every rival school, every style, every technique was another edge to sharpen against. The wind ring is about humility, not fake humility, but the raw understanding that comfort is the enemy of mastery. The danger of success is that it feels final. You hit your goals and people clap for you, but applause is a coffin. It lulls you into sleep. Musashi never slept. He treated every duel, even at the height of his fame, as if he was still the hungry boy with nothing to lose. That hunger is what kept him undefeated. Modern life makes this even harder. Society constantly tells you, be proud, be satisfied, you've done enough. And sure, gratitude is important. But when gratitude turns into stagnation, you're finished. The wind ring demands you find new mountains. Learn from people better than you. Surround yourself with those who expose your weaknesses. Never let applause convince you that you've peaked. Because the truth is brutal. There's always someone younger, faster, smarter, hungrier. The only way to survive is to stay hungrier than all of them. Elon Musk once said, "The first step is to establish that something is possible, then probability will occur." That's wind ring thinking. The first step isn't to rest after proving yourself. It's to ask what else is possible now. Hiroshi's collapse, Layla's decline, Darius's victories, all prove the same point. You can never let the wind of comfort carry you away. Stay grounded, stay hungry, keep learning. Because the moment you ease up, someone else is sharpening their blade to take your place. But even hunger has its limits. Even endless striving can twist into despair when you realize the mountain never ends. That's when the hardest truth reveals itself. The void ring, Musashi's final lesson. Not about winning, not about arriving, but about accepting the eternal war of discipline and becoming one with it. By the time you reach the void ring, you've stripped the lies away, flowed with reality, weaponized your fire, and kept your hunger alive. But then comes the hardest realization. There is no end. Discipline isn't a destination. It's not a box you check off. It's a war you fight every single day until your last breath. That truth can feel crushing. For most people, it breaks them. For Musashi, it freed him. He wrote, "In the void is virtue, and no evil. Wisdom has existence. Principle has existence. The way has existence. Spirit is nothingness." The void isn't emptiness, it's acceptance. Musashi understood that even after 60 undefeated duels, endless training and mastery of multiple arts, there was no final victory. Discipline wasn't something to finish, it was something to live. Modern life makes this paradox brutal. Caleb, a young lawyer, spent 5 years grinding to make partner at his firm. The day he got the promotion, he expected relief, triumph, peace. Instead, he felt emptier than ever. The mountain had no summit. That's the void, the crushing realization that arriving solves nothing. Caleb nearly collapsed into burnout until he shifted perspective. Instead of chasing an endpoint, he began asking, what's today's battle? Some days it was preparing for court. Other days it was dragging himself out of bed at 5 a.m. for a run. He stopped living for the finish line and started living for the fight itself. Or Yasmin, an artist who dreamed of her work hanging in a gallery. After years of rejection, it finally happened. Her paintings sold, people praised her, and then she froze. The thought of repeating that success terrified her. For months, she didn't paint. She almost quit entirely. But when she embraced the void ring, she realized art was not about arrival. It was about the eternal act of creating. Day after day, brushstroke after brushstroke. The discipline was the point, not the applause. Even Noah, a fitness junkie, faced the void. After 2 years of training, he hit his goal weight and sculpted the body he always wanted. Friends envied him. Strangers asked for his secret, but inside, he felt restless. The journey was over, or so he thought. Then he remembered Musashi's words, "Today is victory over yourself of yesterday." The void isn't about chasing endless bigger goals. It's about showing up every single day, no matter how small the fight. Noah stopped training for trophies and started training simply because warriors train. That shift gave him peace. Musashi's life was proof. Even after his legendary duels, he didn't retire into luxury or ease. He wrote, he painted, he meditated, he kept sharpening his spirit. Because to him, discipline wasn't about winning once. It was about living as if the fight never ended. That's the void, not despair, but liberation. When you accept that there's no finish line, the pressure dissolves. You stop asking, when will this get easier? And realize, it never does. But that's the beauty. The struggle becomes your nature, like breathing. The fight itself becomes freedom. Caleb's courtroom battles, Yasmin's brushstrokes, Noah's training, all became lighter when they embraced the void. The discipline stopped feeling like war and started feeling like existence. That's Musashi's final secret. Once you accept the eternal war, it ceases to feel like war at all. So here's the paradox. People will look at you and say, "You're insane. You never stop. Don't you ever relax?" And deep down, you'll know they're right. You are insane by their standards. But that's because you've chosen to live in the void, where warriors belong and where sleepwalkers can never follow. The earth ring gave you truth. The water ring gave you flow. The fire ring gave you fury. The wind ring kept you hungry. And the void ring gave you acceptance. Together they don't form a checklist. They form a cycle, a way of life, a blueprint for becoming so disciplined that mediocrity fears you. And now the question echoes across centuries, from Musashi's cave to your own life. The rings are calling. Will you answer? Most people go through life like sleepwalkers. They repeat the same excuses, chase shallow pleasures, and convince themselves they're working hard, while secretly knowing they aren't moving anywhere. That's the world Musashi rejected. He chose something different, something people called obsessive, extreme, even insane. But history remembers him as undefeated. The 5 rings are not just old words from a samurai manual. They're a cycle, a weapon, a way of living that still cuts sharper than any sword. Earth strips away the illusions we hide behind. Water shows us how to move with reality instead of smashing into it. Fire teaches us to weaponize rage instead of burning ourselves alive. Wind reminds us that complacency is death, that the moment we arrive we start falling. And void frees us from the illusion of an endpoint, teaching us that discipline itself is the way, not the trophy at the end. Look back at the stories we've seen. Alex, Nadia, Jamal, they faced the Earth Ring's savage honesty. Elena, Ryan, Isabella, they flowed through the water ring, turning tiny steps into unstoppable change. Diego, Amira, Omar, they burned their weaknesses in fire instead of burning down themselves. Hiroshi, Layla, Darius, they proved that hunger is what separates champions from the forgotten. And Caleb, Yasmin, Noah, they entered the void, accepting the endless war and finding peace inside it. These aren't samurai in a battlefield. They're modern warriors in offices, gyms, studios, and classrooms. Proof that Musashi's path isn't just history. It's here, right now, waiting for anyone ruthless enough to take it. And here's the part people won't understand about you when you live this way. It doesn't look balanced. It doesn't look normal. Friends might whisper, "Why are you so extreme?" Family might say, "Don't you ever relax?" Strangers might call you obsessed. They won't get it, because they're sleepwalking. But you'll know the truth. Discipline is not suffering, it's liberation. Because when you stop lying to yourself, when you flow instead of force, when you weaponize fire, when you stay hungry, and when you accept the void, you stop living like the masses. You start living like a warrior. Musashi didn't become a legend because he sought comfort. He became a legend because he lived inside discomfort until it became his nature. That's the choice the 5 rings offer you today. Not motivation, not quick hacks, but a blueprint to become so relentless that ordinary people can't even recognize you anymore. So now the question is yours. The rings are calling. Earth, water, fire, wind, void. Each demands sacrifice. Each demands that you give up who you are to become who you could be. Most people will turn away. They'll cling to their distractions, their excuses, their comfort. But you don't have to. The only question left is simple. Will you answer?